Before we delve into the intricate and dangerous developments unfolding in the Middle East, I want to extend my gratitude for your continued support of this project. Your engagement allows us to bring these critical global stories to light, providing the context necessary to understand our complex world. If you value this kind of in-depth analysis, I encourage you to follow our work and share it with others. Independent journalism has never been more vital, and it is through your curiosity and commitment that we can continue to ask the tough questions and seek the truth, no matter where it leads. Now let us turn to the grave situation at hand. The long-simmering shadow war between Iran and Israel has, as of June 13, 2025, erupted into direct and open military conflict. For days now, the world has watched as a devastating cycle of violence unfolds. It began with a massive Israeli assault targeting what it described as Iranian military and nuclear infrastructure. Iran's response was swift and forceful, launching waves of retaliatory missile and drone strikes against Israeli targets. This is not the proxy warfare we have grown accustomed to. This is a direct confrontation between two of the region's most formidable military powers, a dangerous escalation that has pushed the entire Middle East to the very edge of a much wider conflagration. The human cost of this new chapter is already tragically high and continues to mount with each passing hour. In Iran, official reports claim hundreds of casualties, with authorities stating that the vast majority are civilians caught in the crossfire. Images from Tehran show a city gripped by fear, with residents attempting to flee, causing massive traffic jams and widespread panic buying of essential supplies. Similarly, in Israel, cities like Tel Aviv and Haifa have been struck, with residential buildings reduced to rubble and civilians killed or injured. The air raid sirens have become a grim soundtrack to daily life, a constant reminder of the immediate and lethal threat. This escalation did not materialize from a vacuum. It is the culmination of years of rising tensions, most recently punctuated by the events of April 2024. An Israeli strike on an Iranian diplomatic compound in Syria provoked an unprecedented direct Iranian missile and drone attack on Israel. While that exchange was largely contained, it shattered the unwritten rules of engagement and set a new, far more dangerous precedent. The current fighting, therefore, represents the grim fulfillment of that precedent. It has now seized the full attention of world leaders, turning the G7 summit into an emergency council focused on preventing a regional catastrophe of unimaginable proportions. The intense military campaign currently underway is not just about destruction, it is a brutal and high-stakes form of coercive diplomacy. The core objective, according to multiple diplomatic and intelligence sources, is to force Iran back to the negotiating table, but from a position of profound weakness. The strategy appears to involve inflicting such significant pain, militarily, economically, and psychologically, that Tehran's leadership concludes that continued resistance is more costly than making concessions. This is a dangerous gamble, predicated on the belief that a nation can be bombed into submission without triggering a full-scale, uncontrollable war that would engulf its neighbors and draw in global powers. This pressure campaign is being executed through several coordinated tactics, with Israeli military action at its forefront. The United States, while publicly claiming non-involvement in the initial strikes, has acknowledged it was informed beforehand and is actively assisting in intercepting Iranian missiles. This tacit American backing provides a crucial political and military shield for Israel's operations. The attacks themselves are highly strategic, targeting not just military bases but also the very symbols of Iranian state power and economic stability. The goal is to dismantle Iran's capacity to fight and erode the leadership's confidence, thereby creating the conditions for a diplomatic surrender. Another chilling element of this strategy involves the direct targeting of Iran's leadership and its critical infrastructure. Reports have emerged of Israeli proposals, allegedly rejected by Washington, to assassinate Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. While that line may not have been crossed, Israel has successfully eliminated high-ranking commanders within the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, including its chief, Hossein Salami. These decapitation strikes are designed to sow chaos and disrupt command and control. Simultaneously, attacks on vital economic assets, such as the South Pars gas field, the world's largest, and key oil refineries, aim to cripple Iran's economy and stoke internal dissent. Iran, in turn, has not hesitated to retaliate in kind, demonstrating its own capacity to inflict economic pain. Its forces have targeted critical Israeli infrastructure, including a major oil refinery and parts of the national power grid. This economic warfare is a two-way street, creating instability that reverberates far beyond the immediate conflict zone. Global oil prices have already surged by over 7%, a clear indicator of the world's dependence on the stability of this volatile region. Each strike and counterstrike is a calculated move in a deadly game, designed to weaken the opponent's resolve and force them to reconsider their options before the next, potentially more devastating, blow falls. Looming over this entire crisis is the enigmatic and unpredictable presence of United States President Donald Trump. His administration's approach to the conflict has been a hallmark of his distinctive foreign policy doctrine, characterized by mixed signals, transactional diplomacy, and a willingness to challenge long-standing diplomatic norms. This has added a profound layer of uncertainty to an already volatile situation, leaving allies and adversaries alike struggling to discern a clear American strategy. President Trump's statements have oscillated dramatically, creating confusion about his ultimate intentions and whether his administration seeks de-escalation or is content to see the conflict play out. On one hand, the president has made comments that appear to endorse the ongoing fighting, suggesting it is a necessary if brutal step. His remark that sometimes they have to fight it out was interpreted by many as a green light for the Israeli military campaign to continue, reinforcing Iran's claim that the United States is a direct party to the assault. This perspective aligns with the broader strategy of applying maximum pressure, with the conflict serving as the military arm of a policy designed to break the Iranian regime's will. The cancellation of a planned round of talks in Oman following the Israeli strikes further suggests that, for now, military force has superseded diplomatic engagement. On the other hand, President Trump has simultaneously projected an air of optimism about a future deal, seemingly contradicting his more bellicose statements. He has publicly stated that there's a good chance there will be a deal, and has even framed the violent escalation as a potential catalyst, suggesting it may have forced a deal to go quicker. This dual messaging keeps all parties off balance. It allows the administration to support the pressure campaign while also positioning the president as the ultimate dealmaker who can step in to resolve the crisis he arguably helped inflame. It is a high-wire act of brinkmanship that defines his approach to international relations. This unpredictable stance is a core component of the pressure tactics being applied to Iran. By refusing to commit to a single, clear path, the Trump administration fosters an environment of acute uncertainty for Tehran's leaders. They are left to wonder whether the next American move will be an offer for talks or an endorsement of further military strikes. This ambiguity is intended to amplify their sense of isolation and vulnerability, making a return to negotiations, even on unfavorable terms, seem like a more palatable option than weathering a storm with no clear end in sight. The president's role, therefore, is not that of a neutral mediator, but of an active, albeit unpredictable, participant in the coercion strategy. The tactics of coercion being deployed against Iran are fraught with immense risk. If this high-stakes gamble to force a negotiation from a position of weakness fails, the consequences could be catastrophic, not only for Iran and Israel, but for the entire Middle East, and indeed the global community. The most immediate and terrifying danger is the escalation from a contained, direct conflict into a full-blown regional war. Such a scenario would inevitably draw in other nations and non-state actors, from Hezbollah in Lebanon to various militia groups in Syria and Iraq, creating multiple fronts and triggering a domino effect of violence that would be nearly impossible to contain. A wider war would shatter the fragile stability of the global economy. The Middle East remains the world's most critical region for energy production, and a prolonged conflict involving attacks on oil fields, refineries, and shipping lanes would send shockwaves through global energy markets. A sustained spike in oil prices would fuel inflation, disrupt supply chains, and could potentially trigger a worldwide recession. Furthermore, the conflict could redraw the political and strategic map of the region. Alliances could fracture, new and more radical partnerships could form, and the ensuing power vacuum could pave the way for extremist groups to re-emerge and thrive in the chaos. The very nature of modern warfare adds another terrifying dimension to this potential failure. Experts warn that a full-scale conflict would not be limited to conventional missiles and airstrikes. we could witness the deployment of advanced and highly disruptive technologies, including sophisticated AI-driven cyber attacks targeting critical infrastructure like power grids, financial systems, and communication networks. There are also growing fears about the potential use of electromagnetic pulse weapons, which could disable electronic devices across vast areas, plunging societies into darkness and chaos. The human suffering in such a scenario would be immense and indiscriminate. Ultimately, the failure of these coercive tactics would represent a monumental failure of diplomacy, with consequences that would be felt for generations. The immediate goal may be to secure a deal, but the path chosen is one that risks unleashing forces far beyond anyone's control. A region already scarred by decades of conflict would be plunged into a new and even more destructive era. The lives of millions of civilians hang in the balance, hostage to a dangerous game of brinkmanship. The international community, watching from the sidelines, must recognize that the choice is not simply between a weakened Iran and the status quo. It is between a fragile peace and a regional inferno.